Well, hey everyone, my name is Nathan Jones, and if you're new here, welcome. I like to talk about all things movies, specifically Blu-rays, and Happy Halloween a day later. All right, so anyway, yes, I actually got the Halloween 3 mask for Halloween, and this is what I was able to do for Halloween when I gave away candy tonight. But anyway, I know this is late because this is coming out probably on November 1st, but happy belated Halloween, and also happy October, everyone. I hope everyone had a really wonderful month. And today I wanted to showcase with you what I've been watching for the month of October. I'm just actually going to go through my Letterboxd because I actually watched quite a bit of films, and a lot of them I don't have physically in front of me. But we're going to just do a quick roundup on this. But I want to know what you were watching for the month of October. What did you watch on Halloween night? I'm actually kind of curious. And we'll get to Halloween night in a bit. But today, yeah, I want to showcase what we've been watching. So we're going to go through this, and this is going to encompass a few things. Now, if you recall earlier, if anyone remembers the 666 movie challenge, it will cover those films, and then it also will cover some films that I watched outside of that. And so it was a really fun month, and I had a really good time. So let's actually just open up the phone and go from here. All right, starting off with number one. This is actually one of the films I had in my 666 challenge and is my favorite horror movie of all time. So it was good to start off the entire month with this one. I watched John Carpenter's The Thing from 1982, and I just watched the new 4K edition from Universal, and this looks amazing. So if anyone is familiar with me in this movie, you know how much I've talked about it. I love this movie, and it's just perfect. Perfect in so many ways. Score, atmosphere, acting, the setting of just the environment itself, and yeah, the music, and yeah, everything about it is just terrific. So practical effects, I'm done listing things. But anyway, this new 4K looks really fantastic. I was actually able to watch this on my new projector that I just recently got. I got a 4K projector and a new setup, and I'll be making a video of that very, very soon if you want it. Let me know in the comment section down below. But yes, The Thing had to start off number one with this one on October 1st. All right, so moving right along, on October 3rd, I actually skipped a day, and we're also just talking mostly about horror movies here, but I watched the movie Creepshow 2, and this is from 1982, and this is actually the follow-up to Creepshow, and this is actually out on Arrow Video. This is a Region B release that I have in my hands. I believe it's also on Region A. This is actually a really fun little horror anthology, and now I love Creepshow, and I think that's a much better film, but there is, like, The Raft, which is one of the anthology vignettes in this. I really love that one. That's one of my favorite ones, and it's just a lot of fun. This is a classic B film with a bunch of just really kind of crazy setups and some really wonky acting, and I just absolutely love it. This is definitely a film that I would say watch it with some friends if you haven't seen it. But yeah, Creepshow 2, great horror anthology, underrated horror anthology. All right, so also on October 3rd, I was able to watch this George C. Scott classic from 1979. I watched The Changeling, and this is a really fantastic atmospheric haunted house film that I had really know nothing much about, and I was very, very excited to check this one out. And I've talked about it several times on the channel, but now I finally have seen it, and I love it. I love the build up, and you can literally hear everything in this house. And George C. Scott plays it wonderfully, of like a stressed out composer who lost his family in an accident early on in the movie, and you can just sense that and that dread and like the mystery. Like, he's just trying to figure out what like, why are all these things happening in this house. The Changeling. Seriously, go check this movie out if you have not seen it. I highly recommend it. All right, so my next thing I'm going to mention is actually a Netflix show. I finally finished Midnight Mass. So Mike Flanagan has done it again. I think this might be my favorite thing that he's done. And Midnight Mass, if you haven't already heard, I would certainly recommend this film, or I almost said film because we talk about movies all the time. TV series. It's a really short TV series. I think it's around 8 episodes long, and highly digestible, 7 to 8 episodes long. It's October 5th. It's been a bit since I've seen it, but it's got a lot of things going for it, and I think there's a lot of really great moments, and this really isolated town. I guess it's a fictional island, so it's just a really great show, and I think it's highly digestible and certainly something you can go in blind and like kind of enjoy what's happening to all these people on this island, and like what's this mysterious this mysterious force that's really kind of gripping the community, right? It's Midnight Mass, and I highly, highly recommend it. Mike Flanagan did it again, and I cannot wait to see what he does next. All right, so also on October 5th, I watched a film from 1933, and this is actually filmed in 2-color Technicolor process, so it's an early Technicolor process, and I'm talking about The Mystery of the Wax Museum. And actually, this was a film that almost was lost until a really nice print came, I guess about 50 years ago is what it said, nearly 50 years ago was discovered. And yeah, they finally, restored this, and Warner Archive put this out. I think I got it last year, and I was waiting for a good moment to watch this film, and I finally did, and it is just wonderful. It's so crazy that because it's in color, thinking it's an early 30s film, it's really weird. It kind of trips me out a little bit because I just kept going in and out. And then also the effects too is just, the waxwork itself is highly effective. And I cannot appreciate practical effects enough, because you can actually feel the flames that are going on in this movie. And then also just how creepy and utterly eerie these wax figures are. But anyway, I certainly recommend this one. It's a great classic from 1933, and I'm glad that it was found and not lost forever. All right, jumping a few days again, it looks like we're on the odd days, but on October 7th, I was able to watch 1996's classic Wes Craven film, Scream. Now, I do not have the 4K yet. It's on its way, I hope. Everyone seems to be having a difficult time who's not bought it yet. There was some shipping delays, etc. But anyway, I was able to watch this one, and I hope to get the 4K soon. This is a classic film, and the new Scream was just recently announced, so I'm very excited about that. This is one of those franchises that I absolutely love. Pretty much every single film in the franchise. It's like self-referential, and it references a lot of scary movies in the past, and this one is just a classic one. Neve Campbell just kills it. And if anyone's into hip-hop, I would absolutely recommend 96 Neve Campbell by Clipping. David Diggs for you. But anyway, Drew Barrymore is fantastic in this as well. Courtney Cox, of course, David Arquette. Matthew Lillard is in it as well. Skeet Ulrich. Great film. Such a great film. So much fun, and classic slasher. Also on October 7th, I was able to watch a classic film from 1954. It was the last Universal horror monsters. I'm talking about The Creature from the Black Lagoon. I have this nice Alex Ross artwork steelbook right here. These are my favorite steelbooks that I own. This is, a Universal horror monster that I haven't seen in a while, and I was really up for the challenge to watch this one. I just love the effects in this film. I love how they shot underwater. It looks like it was such a difficult thing to do, but they did it so well. And then the creature design is just so much fun. I love the sounds it makes, and just the amount of times it attacks the boat. It's kind of insane. But anyway, Creature in the Black Lagoon, classic Universal horror monster. Highly recommend it. All right, now jumping to October 9th, we're skipping days again. I watched a film directed by Jeremy Gardner and Christian Stella. I'm talking about After Midnight, and this one came out in 2019 and actually has Justin Benson in it. It's from Benson and Moorhead, who have done the film Synchronic most recently, but they've also done, it's literally blanking, The Endless, and then also Spring and Resolution. Those are all great films from them. But anyway, After Midnight is a film about two people, a man and a woman, who are having a strained relationship. And I honestly don't really want to say too much about it, but there is this wonderful storytelling of going back and forth in time, trying to figure out what is the stress of their relationship. And there's also a monster attacking around midnight time, and trying to figure out who is this monster and what is this monster, and trying to figure that out. It's a lot of fun. Go into this blind. It's a really good film, and I actually really enjoy this. It's horror is involved in this movie, but it takes the back burner to the drama and the romance of this story. And I think it's wonderfully blended in, and it's a really great modern film. And this is out on Arrow Video right here. I have the Region B right here, but I probably believe that it is on Region A as well. But anyway, check out After Midnight. It's a high recommend. All right, now moving right along to October 10th, I actually was able to watch a Roman Polanski film he was in as well, from 1966, The Fearless Vampire Killers, or Pardon Me, But Your Teeth Are in My Neck. And this is actually quite a bit of a fun horror comedy kind of mixture. It's weird. This movie, I want to like it more, but it definitely does feel like it has ends with some of the length of the film. First of all, you can definitely feel the length a couple times, but also just which way are they going in certain scenes. And it definitely, there's sometimes it's slapstick and sometimes the drama is just a little bit flat. But it is a fun film nonetheless, and I had a good time with it. And this is actually out on Warner Archive right here. And this is actually, this is weird to think of Roman Polanski during this time period, because this is actually, I think, one of the first times he had his wife, Sharon Tate. He worked with her. And then, I think around this time he also did Cul-de-sac and Repulsion, and then later would do Rosemary's Baby. So it's interesting to see all those films and then see something like this, which just feels like it came out of nowhere. But anyway, has anyone seen this movie? I would be definitely curious to know what you think of it down in the comment section down below. All right, also on October 10th, I was able to jump right into my Vincent Price box set right here, and I'll talk about all the films throughout this month. But the first one I watched was The Haunted Palace, which is the 5th film in this lineup. The Haunted Palace is actually these are all Edgar Allan Poe adaptations, but this one is a H.P. Lovecraft adaptation with I think a Poe, the title of The Haunted Palace is the title of one of Edgar Allan Poe's poems. But anyway, it's more of a Lovecraft adaptation, and it was a fun one. It's definitely interesting to start off this entire box set with it, but I had a good time with it, and I really got into gothic atmosphere, and there's a little bit of a cool little twist with some warlock related things going on in this one, but kind of going back in time with it, and it's a lot of fun. So we'll talk about this box set in just a second with some other ones from Vincent Price. All right, now moving right along to October 12th, I watched something on Shudder. I watched VHS 94. And I have seen the VHS films back in the day, back in the early 2010s, I believe, is when I saw them, or when they first came out. Don't quote me on the years when they came out. It's been a while since I've seen them. But this one had some hype, and I had some friends talk about it, and I watched it, and it was a really good horror anthology, just like the VHSs of the past. But this one I feel like is one of the best ones that I've seen. I really love the first one, which is really about this rat man that exists, and but anyway, it starts going a lot of different directions. Of course, all these eventually collide and become, a little bit more cohesive, and figuring out what this cult is all about, because it kind of opens up with this cult sacrifice, and you just go through these different vignettes, and then eventually it gets to the climax of the film. I would say recommend it. If you have Shudder, I would say check it out and give it a watch. It's a lot of fun. Horror anthologies, I've been digging them, so I hope you can enjoy it too. All right, so also on October 12th, I was able to see the 6th film in here, The Tomb of Ligeia. And Tomb of Ligeia is a really great Edgar Allan Poe adaptation, really about Vincent Price's character, who is in love with his deceased wife, Ligeia, and he mistakes this woman who pretty much just comes into his life because he lives in the middle of these ruins of this old castle, and this woman comes into his life and kind of resembles his wife Ligeia, and then he just kind of unfortunately gets a little bit too crazy about it, and it just starts seeing her all over the place. And then there's also a cat in this this black cat that is just constantly running amok and causing a lot of mayhem. But anyway, Tomb of Ligeia, it's definitely a good one. It wasn't my favorite of this box set, but we'll get to those in a bit. But it was a lot of fun and a really cool gothic tale. All right, so jumping on to October 13th, of course, I wanted to get a little bit of comedy in here as well, and this is going to start becoming a tradition. I love this movie. It's called Who Be Halloween. And it's on Netflix. It's a silly movie. Not everyone loves it. I grew up with Adam Sandler, so I love Billy Madison and Waterboy and Happy Gilmore quite a bit. And so I love seeing Sandler. And even though his more recent comedic outputs are not good, things like Uncut Gems are. But also Who Be Halloween. That's a breath of fresh air. I actually really enjoyed that movie. And it just seems like to be like a harmless film. And it's Sandler just being silly again, and there's a lot of great faces, and you would, the faces that you would see and associate with Adam Sandler. So Who Be Halloween, it's going to be a tradition. I'm going to watch it every single year. All right, on October 14th, I was able to go to the theater and watch the newest A24 film, Lamb. And Lamb is quite the story. So if you are familiar with A24 or any of their outputs, they like to put a lot of maybe those slow burn horror films, and Lamb is certainly right among those ranks. And there's less to talk about with Lamb because it's not really something to explain to people. But you know, this couple who live together, and they somehow they live really far away, and they live with a bunch of sheep and lamb. And then also something really weird happens, and there is this child, this lamb child. And from there, you just kind of have to watch what happens with this and what this isolation does. There's a relationship aspect to this film, but I don't really want to talk about it too much. But I enjoyed the film. I enjoyed it less than I thought I would, but it certainly had its moments, and certainly is a thought-provoking film for sure. So if you are familiar or interested in that film, I would say definitely check it out. But if it's not your cup of tea, if you don't like A24 films, I'll also say like you need to watch that if you don't need to. So anyway, Lamb, I enjoyed it quite a bit, but it's definitely due for a rewatch. All right, now we're moving on to October 15th, right in the middle of the month. I was able to see Halloween, and yes, I just did the Halloween 3 mask. We'll get to Halloween 3 later, but of course I had to check out this new 4K on my new projector, and it looks really fantastic. I love the new Dolby Atmos track that's this really it heightens the score, John Carpenter's score. The 4K scan from the original camera negative is also fantastic. It looks really great, and I highly recommend these sets. And Halloween's just that classic staple, and definitely one of my favorite of the slasher franchises. Probably that and Scream are like my two favorites, which is you know, why I watched them both. But anyway, Halloween, good to revisit this. Still need to watch a lot of the special features on this, but I just love that it has 3 discs with it and a lot of extra things with it. So yes, check out those Halloween sets from Scream Factory. All right, so 2 days later, on October 17th, I was able to jump into Halloween 2, and it's been a long time since I've seen this one, so it was a little bit of a recap, but it picks up right from Halloween, right as Michael has escaped from getting shot by Loomis. And this one's all set up in a hospital. And honestly, some people, I know a lot of my friends really love this one a little bit, maybe even more than the first one. It's a fantastic sequel. It's one of the best sequels out there. And Halloween 2, just like I was saying with Halloween with these new Scream Factory box sets, the Atmos track and the 4K scan look phenomenal. And this one has this one's cool because it has three discs. One's the 4K, one's the Blu-ray with the scan, and then this also has the DVD with a television cut in standard definition, which is really cool. So you get pretty much all the editions of this film all in one place. So if you're a really big fan of Halloween and remember kind of how it came out, you don't have to just look at the new polished one, right, at the 4K, but you can look at it from the lenses and the different cuts from the different eras, and I love that. So Halloween 2, another strong recommend. Also on that day, and I'm going to jump outside of Halloween for a second, but I was able to watch this with my old roommate. He came over, and we had such a fantastic time. We watched Johnny Guitar on the new Eureka box right here from the Eureka line, from spine number 256, and this is one of the best westerns I've ever seen in my life. So if you have a region free player, this is a region B release, but if you have a region free player, pick up this set. I haven't read the supplements with it, but Joan Crawford is just so damn good in this movie. And of course, we also have Sterling Hayden as Johnny Guitar, who also plays a fantastic lead. But really, it's between Joan Crawford and Mercedes McCambridge, who are these two women who are just more or less clashing in this town, and everyone else is kind of in between them, and I love it. And Johnny Guitar, it looks wonderful, and it looked wonderful on the new 4K projector. I swear, certainly check this one out. It's a good cut between this and the Halloween movies we've been watching. So moving right along to October 20th, I was able to watch this amazing folk horror masterpiece, The Wicker Man. And The Wicker Man is from 1974. It's a great Scottish film about a fictional town, an island off the coast, and it is just insane. Christopher Lee's in it, Ingrid Pitt is in it. They're both phenomenal in this movie, but we're really following Edward Woodward, who is our cop from the mainland, and trying to figure out the mysterious disappearance of this girl. And the town is just really freaking weird. And you'll notice that if you haven't seen The Wicker Man, it's a classic, and it's weird, it's creepy, and the ending is unforgettable. So Wicker Man, high recommend. All right, so these next films, I actually recently went up to a friend's house and we watched a 24-hour horror movie marathon. Now the thing is, I was only able to stay for half of it, unfortunately, because of work. Damn you, work. Would have loved to do this, but we started at 10 a.m. and actually I have the list in front of me right here. So the film is Mad Love, and this is from 1935, and this is a really fantastic Warner Archive release. And we watched this. It's got Peter Lorre in it, and Peter Lorre plays this mad surgeon who falls in love with this woman who's an actress, and more or less is just obsessed with her the entire time, and will stop at nothing to be with her. So that was Mad Love, and I really enjoyed that. Next, we actually watched at, I believe, around 12 o'clock, noon, we watched The Ambulance. And The Ambulance is just a full-blown, nutty Larry Cohen film. Really loved it. The dialogue is fantastic. There's even Stan Lee in this movie, which is just so much fun. You know, it's about a comic book artist who kind of follows this lady at the very beginning of the film, and follows them up until a point where it's just, I don't know, you have to watch The Ambulance. It's a crazy setup, but this ambulance is starting to pick up people, and the people are disappearing left and right, and they're not checking into hospitals, and it just goes down these different crazy roads, and it's certainly a fun film nonetheless, and it's totally 90s. It's straight up from 1992, 90 as well, not 92. So next we moved on to a film in 2015, The Devil's Candy. This is actually the second time I've seen this movie, and I really loved it a lot more than I had previously. I watched it previously, and I thought it was okay. As somebody who's kind of a metal elitist a little bit, it felt a little bit too try-hard, but then it all started making sense to me. It has nothing to do with the film itself, but there is some metal, songs, and there's a big, it's atmospheric to what the film's about. It's a really, really fantastic film, kind of about possession in a way, figuring out what's going on with, this one particular house, and there's iconography and some imagery. That new family just moved in. One of them is an artist, and he starts painting really crazy things, and you'll see kind of what that looks like if you haven't seen The Devil's Candy. It's really a lot of fun, and it's a great recent film. Next is a film from John Carpenter, and it's the first time I've seen this, and it's crazy I haven't seen this before. It's from 1980, and it's actually on its way because I don't have it yet, but it is The Fog. And absolutely a fantastic film. Jamie Lee Curtis, of course, is back with this. We also have Janet Leigh in it as well, and Tom Atkins is one of our main characters, John Huesman, Adrienne Barbeau, and we also have Hal Holbrook as well. There's a lot of really great casts in this film, and it is just the effects are so well done in this movie, and it actually makes something that, like, on paper sounds kind of silly really effective, and it really works on this coastal town where this fog rolls in and starts slowly but surely killing off some of the people on this town, because there is these undead, more or less pirates, who are taking over and killing the people as like to enact revenge from years past. Then after that, we watched a film called Night of the Eagle, or Burn Witch Burn, which is what it's better known as. I believe it's a Kino release. And it is a really fantastic story, really about witches. And this is 1962 when this came out, and so it actually has a lot to do with some communist kind of undertones about like witchcraft, and like really just who is going to point fingers at who. So there's some of those political undertones I got from this movie. But I really enjoyed it, and I think it's a really good drama. And I don't know if we were all in a particular mood to watch that movie, but it was certainly a movie I would watch in the future on my own. All right, so moving right along in our horror movie marathon, this was near like 6 o'clock when we watched this movie, but we watched Fright Night Part 2. And I had not seen Fright Night Part 2. I've seen Fright Night and the Fright Night remake, or the reboot, I suppose. But I hadn't seen Fright Night Part 2, and this is a film from 1988, and it definitely has some mixed reviews, and I can tell why. It's an interesting film, and it kind of sets up a little bit of the college years for Brewster, and there's some very 80s vampires, late 80s vampires that roll into town, who is the sister from original Vampire, and her posse. And it's an interesting one, but it's certainly worth a watch, and it's a lot of fun nonetheless. And then the last film that I was able to watch before I had to leave was Night of the Demons, which was so much fun. Another film from 1988. I was able to pick that up during the Scream Factory sale, so I'm going to be getting it very soon as well. Wow, everybody in this film so hateable, but also the dialogue in this movie is just insane. It's just there's so many things that all these kids hate each other. It's just so nuts that they're even in the same room together trying to party in this really crazy haunted house that has some local legends attached to it. And, one of them gets possessed, and, slowly but surely everyone starts getting possessed. That's just kind of what happens, But yeah, that was a very fun night, and I was able to watch a bunch of horror movies that night. So I was able to kick it into gear and watch as much as I could, and then come back home, unfortunately, and work. All right, so now we're done with October 22nd, and now we're on to October 24th, and I was able to watch Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. Man, just like my mask right here. I was able to watch this, and I had so much fun revisiting this movie that, of course, I wanted to be one of the kids' masks from Halloween 3. And yeah, this is once again another fantastic Scream Factory 4K release with Dolby Atmos and also 4K scan, and it looks phenomenal. In fact, the funny thing about this movie is I've seen it twice. We'll come back to this in a second. But anyway, Halloween 3, love it. All right, so another break real quick. I also, on October 24th, kind of went away from horror again, and I was able to check Dune out from Denis Villeneuve, and good God, Dune's fantastic. I have not seen the adaptation from David Lynch, and I have not read Dune, so I do not know much about it, but I was really engrossed in the story, and I think the world building is fantastic. Very, very excited to see where the next part goes. And yeah, I'm very happy about it, and I love the casting choices. It seemed weird at the time, but I believed in it, and the practical effects, it's definitely a theater movie, so if you can, go check out Dune in the theater, preferably IMAX. If you can, it's a gorgeous film, and it's incredible. You don't see films like this every day, for sure. All right, so moving right along to October 25th, I was able to jump back into this box set, and I was able to see Tales of Terror. And Tales of Terror is a horror anthology of Edgar Allan Poe short stories, and they were a lot of fun. And my favorite in particular was the one with Peter Lorre. I believe, I'm going to forget which one this was called, in The Black Cat. There's a black cat in particular that is just constantly harassing Peter Lorre, but also Vincent Price is in this movie, and it's kind of like a drinking rival, and he's like a wine connoisseur, and then Peter Lorre is just a drunk the whole time, and he's got a wife, and his wife is definitely staying for too long, and then yeah, his wife has an affair with with Vincent Price, and then kind of a hijinks ensues there, and because kind of things go crazy. But that one's a really comedic one for sure. Tales of Terror, I'd say, is a little bit more comedic than horrifying. And right after that, we're going to October 28th, and I was able to see The Raven. And The Raven was an interesting film. It's a film that I did not expect it to go the direction it did. It was like a magician film, which was, because I remember The Raven being one of those poems that I really recall, but this one's like a very loose adaptation. It just becomes this whole different thing. It almost feels like a Fantasia thing. I didn't enjoy it as much as I wanted, and I think I need to go back to it, but there's some pretty crazy effects and some really wonky looking things. But also on October 28th, I was actually able to start The Fall of the House of Usher. And this was this is actually the start of all the Roger Corman and Vincent Price collaborations doing these Poe stories. And this was a fantastic one. I really love this one. It's really about this house, and this house being the monster, and this family kind of being cursed there, and all the people who have the Usher name, and the people who are trying to get into the family and get the family out, they don't want that in the world. And that's kind of the plot synopsis of this. But it's a really great gothic horror movie, and I think this is a great start to this this collaboration between Corman and Vincent Price. But anyway, I was also on October 28th able to watch The Pit and the Pendulum. I was able to just jump into a lot of these movies. And The Pit and the Pendulum is probably my favorite of the bunch. It's certainly the one where it's about another house that it used to be, I guess, in the Spanish Inquisition, like a torture chamber, and it kind of goes into some familial drama and some ancestors and some kind of crazed uncles, if you will, and some family murder, and it ends in a very swinging way, if you will. But I certainly love this box set. I can't wait to jump into the special features on some of these. I watched some of the special features with some of the people, with Roger Corman talking, and then also some Vincent Price interviews. It's a lot of fun. This is a great box set from Arrow Video, and I highly recommend it. And I was so glad to actually jump into some Vincent Price films. And yeah, certainly would watch this. All right, so moving right along to October 29th, I was actually able to watch a film by Kiyoshi Kurosawa called Pulse from 2001, and wow, this movie has some scenes that are really not forgettable. It's unforgettable for sure. But this is such a creative film that came out in 2001. Like I said, this is right around the time the internet was starting to really pick up, and it really jumped into that particular horror of isolation and the internet itself and technology evolving. But also, it really is apt to today's world, and so I think it's really interesting to watch this with like fresh eyes, because I think it works in the contemporary times as well. But this is such a fantastic movie, and I cannot wait to dive into it again later on. But it's got some horrifying parts of this movie, and this is from Arrow Video, and this is an all regions release. But I'm super excited to have this movie. All right, so like I said, now we are moving to October 30th. So last night I was able to watch Halloween 3 again with some of my friends, and we watched this with somebody for the first time. They really liked it, but it was a lot of fun to revisit this. And then on Halloween night, I actually have one film over there that I'm finishing up, after this, and I'm watching Guillermo del Toro's Shape of Water. Of course, I watched The Creature from the Black Lagoon earlier this month, and I wanted to watch, it's, I guess, a sister film in the modern era. But it is such a fantastic film. I have it on 4K and on Steelbook. I love it, and it was due for a rewatch. And Shape of Water is a great Cold War thriller mixed and mashed up with a romance and a horror. It's a great monster mash, if you will. Then last but not least, the film I'm going to finish off tonight with is not necessarily a horror film, but I feel like is probably one of the most horrifying films I've ever seen. It's Charles Laughton's 1955 classic Night of the Hunter. Wow. Robert Mitchum, Shelley Winters, we also even have Lillian Gish in this movie. This is such a creepy film, and it's such an atmospheric film. I cannot wait to watch it on my 4K projector, and this is going to look just stunning. This is really sad that Charles Laughton was only able to make one film, but this is an unforgettable one. And the performance from Robert Mitchum especially, it's just terrifying. But anyway, I want to know what you were watching for the month of October. Let me know in the comment section down below. What were some of your favorites? What were some of your favorite discoveries? What are some of your classics that you like to watch? Thank you so much for checking out this video. I know it was a long one, and sorry about it being on November, but here we are. I hope you enjoyed this video. Like, comment down below, share, hit the notification bell, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. I'm not jonesing around.